Now I want to invite our next speakers to the stage, Valery Danileko and Dmitry Maslov, who really represent the other side of that coin. We've just seen the broad overview of an enormous international effort on TB, and now we're going to see the next generation of research scientists out of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the Vavilov Institute of General Genetics in Moscow, and he'll talk about the hybrid warfare of Mycobacterium tuberculosis.
So, good morning, everybody. I would like to thank, first of all, the AAAS, the ASM, and personally Dr. Kessel for the opportunity to speak here today, for the invitation of us. And I'm going to speak about the hybrid warfare of Mycobacterium tuberculosis and its potential to unite researchers all around the world, like at the face of a common problem. It's actually, I suppose, not the last version of the presentation, so I'll just open this one, sorry. Okay, so as Dr. Kessel already said, the problem of TB today in the world is quite big. It has like 9 million new TB cases each year with like 1.5 million deaths each year, and almost 25% of these deaths are in HIV-associated patients, in HIV-positive patients, so it's the leading killer of HIV/AIDS patients in the world. And the constantly growing number of MDR, XDR, and TDR strains, and the 1/3 of the world's population is infected with MTB. In Russia, the situation is even worse. So after the fall of the Soviet Union and the destroy of its health system, there was a start of a widespread of TB, and the lack of personalized medicine and the common drug usage, drug regimen usage led to the emergence and the spread of MDR and XDR TB. And as an example, 20% of new TB cases and almost 50% of retreated TB in Russia is MDR. And we showed in our recent research that almost 73% of the MDR TB in Moscow is PZA resistant, and it's really hard curable and with a bad clinical prognosis. And we have a lot of recent Russian and international papers showing that there are new genotypes of TB, new like clones of TB bacterium with dangerous genotypes and dangerous phenotypes with enhanced virulence and pathogenicity, and which are more likely to develop drug resistance. And so why we call it the hybrid warfare of M. tuberculosis? Because it's combined, it's a mix of virulence and pathogenicity, of the persistence and of drug resistance. So I've said about the new strains of dangerous genotypes. What are they? They are the strains with enhanced virulence and pathogenicity, as for example the B0W subgroup of the Beijing lineage in Russia, and there are other genotypes all around the world. And like the strains which preferably infect and kill the HIV-positive people, like the KwaZulu-Natal strains in South Africa. And the second problem is the spread of these dangerous genotypes with migration, and this is especially a problem in the former Soviet Union countries, because there is a lot of like work migration, and it's mostly uncontrolled. What regards persistence, it's a phenomenon of the dormant bacilli, TB bacilli, which have phenotypic drug resistance. Like they just don't accept the drugs, not because they have mutations or something else, but just because their metabolism is slowed down, and the usual drugs don't kill them after all. And the latent TB infection problem, the 2 billion infected people all around the world, is also a time bomb. And I think that Dr. Kessel said enough about drug resistance, the MDR, XDR, and TDR strains. So I'll go next. And TB is also being thought and studied right now as a co-infection to other chronic diseases like HIV, hepatitis, diabetes, and influenza. So what are the global challenges of fighting TB? There are some fundamental challenges, of course. There is the search for new genes and mechanisms of genetic mechanisms of drug resistance, of virulence and pathogenicity and persistence also, of course. And the second one is the search for new anti-TB drugs with new mechanisms of action, maybe not only killing bacilli, but also lowering the level of their virulence. And the second main challenge is the epidemiologic control of the spread of TB. And this includes the analysis of the epidemiologic situation on different levels, the regional level, the national level, and the international level. And for this, we must search for new dangerous genotypes, region-specific dangerous genotypes. We should evaluate the impact of the migration on the spread of these genotypes, and we should prevent this spread. So there's a lot of data mining and data analysis. And as Dr. Kessel said, there was this TB-Resist consortium, and in 2013, our group, the Russian group, led by Professor Danilenko, who's here right now, was invited to join this consortium. And as we see it, it's an international effort to unite competencies in collecting and analyzing the data on TB using some state-of-the-art technologies like whole genome sequencing and maybe supercomputers for genomic analysis and comparative genomic analysis. And it's an opportunity to unite efforts not within a country, because in Russia there's now really a competition between different TB institutes, and this is an opportunity to unite their efforts, and also to unite efforts beyond the country. And also a very important opportunity to unify the methods, because as for now the methods of TB study and clinical treatment vary not only from country to country, but they may vary also from region to region in one country and from institution to institution in one region. And of course, the possible exchange of experience and samples, the biosamples and the data. I've said about the Russian research group. It consists of 5 institutions. It's our Institute of General Genetics in Moscow. There are two TB clinical centers, the Central TB Research Institute and the Ural Research Institute of Physiopulmonology in Yekaterinburg, and also the Central Institute of Epidemiology in Moscow, and the Physical Chemical Medicine Research Institute also in Moscow, which specializes on the whole genome sequencing and proteomic analysis of TB. What do we expect and propose for this opportunity to collaborate in an international consortium? First of all, would like to propose to have workshops and master classes with the invitation of worldly known scientists in the area of TB. We propose to and expect to be made the genetic, genomic, and proteomic databases of fully characterized using, as I mentioned, a standardized questionnaire, TB strains from different regions, so we'll be able to compare them. And this would include also those of dangerous genotypes. The functional analysis of genes is very important because we can analyze the mutations bioinformatically, but they must be confirmed their impact on the phenotype functionally. We want a diagnostic catalog of SNPs involved in virulence and pathogenicity and drug resistance to be made after all the research. And we think it's really important to evaluate the cross-border spread of TB strains. It's based on the epidemiologics. And of course, we hope there will be international interaction between non-government organizations such as AAAS, ASM, and maybe the Russian Society for Genetics. And one more idea is to set up a number of, like a network of international laboratories in different countries, like in Russia, Kazakhstan, China, India maybe, with the invitation of specialists all over the world, which will help to like bring the level to the state of art, the level of research. And of course, the main problem maybe is the funding for now, for all this collaboration. We have some, I would like to mention some funding opportunities in Russia that we have. We had this US-Russia collaborative research on HIV/AIDS, and we had a grant actually which has been finished in our lab, and it goes on in USA. We had a collaboration with Dr. Zhang's laboratory in Johns Hopkins University, and it was really fruitful. And we also now are preparing a large project on TB fighting in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, and it has been supported by the new agency which controls the Russian scientific organizations, the Federal Agency of Scientific Organizations, and it's now should be evaluated by the Ministry of Finance of Russia. So we propose a complex and international clinical, microbiological, genetic, bioinformatic approach against the hybrid warfare of MTB. Thank you. That's all.